Welcome to the Big Me Kickoff. I am your host, Kevin Noon. It is Wednesday, July 23rd, a rare taped edition of the show. We are probably, with the time of my recording this, a couple hours away from the start of day two of Big Ten Media Days here in Las Vegas, Nevada. You can help us out by subscribing to BuckeyeHuddle.com. Uh, Tom, Tony, myself cover the team. Mark covers recruiting. Ross and his team of experts cover the X's and O's. Andrew covers the board. All of that at BuckeyeHuddle.com. If you're watching us on YouTube, you can hit that thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell. Don't miss a single episode of any of our shows, not just the Big Me Kickoff, but also Buckeyes Tomorrow Morning, School Session Recruiting Podcast, the Buckeye Weekly Podcast. All of that great content here at Buckeye Huddle. Now that we've paid the bills in less than a minute, so that's good. Uh, Make me look good. Sign up for the site. That certainly helps out in the long run. Let's talk a little bit about media days. And Tom and Tony have done shows talking more about the content of it. I'm going to talk a little bit more just about how the run of the show works and how things are set up with all of that. I mean, with it being in Las Vegas, it is a little bit of a different flavor because normally it's in Indianapolis and there's a case of everybody, well, not everybody, but a lot of people drive in and you have more representation from certain media beats than you do from others. You bring in the West Coast teams and it's a little bit different now. But even with it being in Las Vegas, it's not like we are heavy with the West Coast team contingents. Now, all of that is still not until Thursday. So we've not seen USC, we've not seen UCLA. I have a buddy who covers Oregon. I know that they don't have a lot of people here, but there was and I was under the false belief that the reason they did it in Las Vegas was kind of to, throw a bone to the West Coast. That's not entirely true. Basically, there was a scheduling snafu, and the Big Ten moved too slowly, and Indianapolis was done full up, and they had to scramble and find something else. So, it is what it is. But I think everybody is enjoying being in Las Vegas. It is warm. Shortly before we got here, I guess the temperatures were in the 110s. I think that while I've been here, they've been just shy of 100. So I think the only time I've been out of a car is been out of a building is getting in and out of an Uber. So it's not been too bad. But the way that the Big Ten works it out is you get six schools a day for 3 days. That makes 18. Six times three is 18. I was told there'd be no math, but we can figure that much out. And it's important to break up headliners for each day. If you ran Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan, Oregon all on one day, it would create all the news in the world for one day, and then 2 days you'd have crickets. And that's not a slight to some of the other programs that I didn't mention. It's just the reality of national buzz. Because our Big Ten media days, or any media days for that matter, there for the media, or are they made for television events? And I'm gonna let you on a secret. They're made for television events, is what they really are. These things are shown on BTN. I've seen plenty of television affiliates here getting stuff. They are made for TV events. So, day one, Ohio State obviously is an anchor school. Nebraska generated a lot of buzz here on day two. I mean, you're going to sit there and you're going to have Penn State is going to be an anchor school that's there. I think Oregon is today as well. And then on day three, you're going to have Michigan, and then you're going to have like the LA teams. So you spread things out. And I think that kind of helps out in terms of making sure that you are creating news each day. Each day you have news on the cycle to where on your favorite sportscast, on your favorite sports website, there's going to be a story. Whether or not, it's Ryan Day talking about, we're not We're not defending national champs. We're looking to repeat. I mean, because this isn't the WWE. It's not like you got the world heavyweight championship belt and you could lose it. You're not. I mean, you're not going to lose the belt. Those trophies are at the Woody. They're part of they're part of the decorations. They're not on the line. So you do that, today with Penn State. I mean, Penn State being the betting favorite to win the Big Ten at a lot of books. I think that what the buzz is going to be there. And then of course with Michigan, oh well, you know, all the things that are going on with the Council of Infractions and everything else, and that they won't be able to talk about. But there still will be a lot of people who try to ask through a lot of subterfuge, are going to ask questions about the case and what's going on. And Sharon Moore is already supposed to be suspended game 3 and game 4 of the regular season, which to me still seems kind of odd that you get to pick and choose which games that you are going to be suspended for. I don't think that's the way it should work. But nobody asked me. So you kind of take that for what it's worth, and you go forward. So Ohio State bucks the trend and brings Jeremiah Smith, Caleb Downs, Sonny Styles, and obviously Ryan Day. And we had the chance to talk to everybody, and you can check out all those interviews here at youtube.com/Buckeye Huddle. We got all of those posted as quickly as we could. We will post more interviews from other other conference mates on our sister channel of SaturdayGlory.com. I'll try to make sure I remember when I post this to throw a link in the show notes so you know where to find it. What are your thoughts on how conference media days are? What do you like about them? What don't you like about them? Do you even pay attention to them? There used to be a day and an age where we would get an hour. It wasn't maybe an hour, maybe it was 45 minutes with the 3 players, and each outlet, we would come together and do like a pool, and we would go through and we would transcribe every word. This was before AI transcription programs made everything, I don't want to say easier, because AI is still AI, and it doesn't always get things right, especially names, things of that nature. But did you pay attention to stuff? Because we're we're a week away from the start of Ohio State fall camp, and once that happens, we'll start getting interviews again. Do how much do you pay attention to these interviews? I mean, obviously you care enough that you're watching this show. Then again, if you're not watching the show, I wouldn't know any different. But I mean that you're watching this show, so you seem to care enough that about the subject matter from a top down view. But how much do you care about media days? Do you care about media days more, less than you did before? I mean, are there things you'd like to see changed? Did Ohio State bring the right guys? I think that Ohio State really did bring the right guys by not limiting it to seniors, not limiting it to guys that maybe have played some, but then again maybe have not. I mean, I think that bringing Jeremiah, it's very important for his award run. I think it's important for Caleb Downs. I think that Sonny Styles is somebody that needs to be here as well. I don't know if I could think of anybody. I mean, in past years, we undoubtedly would have gotten an offensive lineman that they would have trained not to say a darn thing. And then on top of that, maybe somebody in the secondary, maybe IGB. I don't know. I mean, then again, IGB could have been a risky pick. IGB likes to talk a little bit, and so I think that was something smart there. And then I don't know, maybe somebody on the defensive line, Caden Curry, Kenyatta Jackson. I don't know, but instead they went with the right decision, in my opinion, and brought the guys that are the newsmakers. So I think that is important. No, it's weird doing a taped show, and it's not going to be a long show because, again, we've not had any of the interviews yet today. I don't have a ton to talk about. Didn't sleep particularly well last night, so no, not at the tables or anything like that. Now, if you want to send me to the tables, you can always super chat us here at the show, or super thanks or whatever, and we'll put a bet out for you. But I don't have a ton of thoughts yet on the day, but I was like, I've got to record something. And yesterday was such a rush getting here and getting things set up and getting set up in the room that I wasn't able to record a show in advance of day one of media days. But here I have a chance to do this. I may record one on the back end. I don't know. We'll just kind of have to see what's said. I'm very interested to hear what James Franklin has to say about his Nittany Lions team. I mean, they're returning everybody. They're returning everybody not named Abdul Carter, more or less. So they are going to be an interesting team because they've had their problems with Ohio State. They've had their problems with Michigan too, but they've had their problems with Ohio State. Is Penn State going to be able to get over that hurdle? Let's not forget the only time that Penn State under Franklin really has beaten Ohio State, it took Urban Meyer having a little bit of a brain fart, rushing a field goal team out there in Happy Valley. He had timeouts to burn, rushes it out, it gets blocked, they run it back. And even with all of that, Ohio State still had a chance to march down the field in the other direction and win the game. So, and that's it. That's it. Now, that doesn't mean that Penn State hasn't had two-score leads on Ohio State going in well into the second half. Ohio State has just had the will to win these games, whereas Penn State has not been able to get over the hump. And this game is in Columbus. So they're not going to get any sort of a break. They're not going to get any sort of a bump from, Penn State, I'm saying. It's not going to get any sort of a bump from the home crowd or anything along those lines. They're going to have to come into Columbus, and no, it's not going to be a night game. I mean, let's just be real. It's just not going to be a night game, but they're not going to have any sort of built-in advantage. Penn State won't. They're going to have to come in, and they're going to have to beat Ohio State in a street fight. They're going to have to beat Ohio State in a barroom brawl, breaking pool cues and bottles over people's heads. I mean, it's they're not going to be able to show up and just say, well, we're just more talented. Look, we're returning 4 linemen, we're returning the top, 2 of the top 4 running backs in the Big Ten. They're returning, they went and did well in the portal on the defensive side. Oh, by the way, they have Jim Knowles as their defensive coordinator, somebody who's going to know the Ohio State personnel quite well. None of that is going to matter at that point. And the reality is while Ohio State and Penn State are not protected rivals anymore, they played each other every year for like ever. And that's not going to be the case kind of moving forward. But it's not like Ohio State has not prepared for Penn State in the past. It's not like Ohio State doesn't have crossover film of Penn State in the past. But the most important thing is that Ohio State has had to prepare directly for Penn State in the past. So they're going to know who a lot of these guys are. Because, okay, you're bringing back 80% of your team, 85% of your team. And if you played them last year and you know that, you know who they are. Now, does Nick Singleton, Katron Allen, do they take a big step forward in from year 3 to year 4? Maybe, probably. Penn State once again is going to be relying upon transfers from the portal at wide receiver. Haven't really seen that work yet. Drew Allar has not really had any traction whatsoever against Ohio State in the past. Going to have to figure that one out as well. So it'll be interesting to kind of see where that one goes. That's really the biggest thing that I'm interested in. I think the second most interesting thing is just going to be talking to Dan Lanning about playing Ohio State twice, and you know he's not going to want to look back as much. It's all about, media days is about looking forward, looking ahead. So looking back to 24 isn't necessarily the 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 purpose, but I would like to know, what he feels that Ohio State was able to do differently in game 2 than in game 1. And obviously different locale. Game 1 was in Eugene, Oregon. Game 2 was in Pasadena, California. So, there were certainly some changes there. There was a hell of a lot more on the line in game 2 than game 1. Not that game 1 was not insignificant by any stretch of the imagination. It was extremely significant. But where are the differences there? So, I don't expect that to be asked as much in the podium session, but maybe in the breakout session. I'll be interested to see how many people are here. A lot of the Ohio State beat will be here at least through tomorrow morning, maybe a little later. We're here until Friday morning, and then we'll return back to Columbus to take naps and things of that nature. But until the next time, I mean, as I said, we've gone 15 minutes. That's about where I wanted to go on this one. Just a chance to just talk to you. Maybe we'll be able to figure out to do a live show. I'm still trying to figure out where the strongest internet is and everything else. But until then, have a great day. I'll talk to you very soon.